It's time for the last word with Lawrence O'Donnell. Hey, Lawrence.
Hey, Jen, we have Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger joining us tonight. We also have the very big night, the next Speaker of the House, Hakeem Jeffries, who took a big step tonight to get closer to that speakership and Democratic control of the House next year.
You have two of the people who were probably celebrating the most, have done a lot of the work, feel probably relieved and happy by the outcome tonight, which is really incredible.
Yeah, and I actually, so I have reason to believe they were fairly confident this was going to happen, which is why they're here at this hour. And we're going to get right to it.
Sounds good. I look forward to watching.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you. A huge victory for democracy tonight in Virginia, which means another huge loss for Donald Trump, with American voters turning against Donald Trump once again. Donald Trump is now one step closer to losing Republican control of the House of Representatives. The Associated Press projects Virginia voters said yes tonight to a redistricting plan designed to fight Donald Trump's redistricting conspiracy that he launched in Texas in an attempt to increase the number of Republican members of the House of Representatives so that Republicans could hang on to control of the House. The redistricting program Virginia voters approved tonight could add possibly 4 Democrats from Virginia to the House of Representatives next year. And Donald Trump knows that Democratic control of the House of Representatives means serious subpoena power for investigations of Donald Trump and his administration that could, once again, if Donald Trump crosses the line again, lead to Donald Trump's 3rd impeachment investigation in the House of Representatives. President Obama described the stakes to Virginia voters this way.
Hey, Virginia. Early voting is underway, and Virginians are turning out in record numbers to vote yes. By voting yes, you have a chance to do something important, not just for the Commonwealth, but for our entire country. By voting yes, you can push back against the Republicans trying to give themselves an unfair advantage in the midterms. By voting yes, you can take a temporary step to level the playing field. And we're counting on you. Make a plan, show up, and vote yes, Virginia.
And leading off our coverage tonight is Virginia Democratic Governor Abigail Spanberger. Governor, thank you very much for joining us tonight. What is your reaction to what the voters of Virginia have said tonight?
Well, I knew that the voters of Virginia would vote yes on this referendum. I knew that we would be successful because, as President Obama just laid out in that clip that you showed, Virginians understood the stakes of this referendum election. Virginians understood that it all began when President Trump said that he was entitled to additional congressional seats and when Republican legislature after Republican legislature obliged him. What's really important about what we did here on the ground in Virginia is that this referendum went before the people. We made sure that the map that would be put in place after this referendum was successful, was available to voters. And ultimately, by the nature of our referendum system, we knew that this redistricting would only move forward when Virginians voted for it. So it was really just essential that the vote be with the people. I knew that we would see a successful yes vote. And so I'm pleased with the outcome because it is our chance, our opportunity to really stand up to what we're seeing in other states. And importantly, it also preserves our bipartisan redistricting commission into the future, which is important to so many Virginians. But in this moment, we are able to take this responsive action with our successful yes vote.
So there's a big difference between how Donald Trump did it with Texas Republicans, which was never put to a vote of the people of Texas. Then California, under Gavin Newsom's direction, put it to a vote of the entire state, just as you've done, put it to a vote to the entire state. Do you feel that has more validity than the process that took place in Texas that never was subjected to Texas voters?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll tell you why. Our referendum process is a three-part process. The General Assembly has to vote to move forward a potential amendment, a constitutional amendment, and they have to vote twice on that, which they did. We had majority votes on both votes, and then it goes to the people. And so the fact that we had to travel across the Commonwealth of Virginia, make our case to the people of Virginia, explain what this referendum in the middle of April actually is, why it matters, and why we're encouraging a yes vote. That is a vote where the people of our Commonwealth had the ability to say, yes, we want to take this step. We want to pass this referendum, and we want to do this redistricting at this moment as a responsive and temporary step. Again, preserving our long-term bipartisan redistricting commission, but recognizing the urgency. And so it wasn't a bunch of legislators who were trying to do the president's bidding. It wasn't a bunch of legislators who were, choosing partisanship over anything else. This was the people of Virginia saying, we have this option and we are choosing to take it.
You've just come from the House of Representatives to the governorship in this last election. What did it, in your view, what would it mean if the Republicans were able to conspire with Donald Trump to increase the number of Republicans in the House of Representatives so that they could cling to control of the House of Representatives for 2 more years?
Well, I think they very much understood that the only way they could possibly maintain a majority in the House of Representatives, of course, they have a slim majority at the moment, was if they cheated, if they went seeking seats in places like Texas, which is why the president began this effort, because he knew that at the midterms, much like back in 2018 when I was first elected to Congress, that his poor leadership, the chaos that he is creating, the war he's begun with Iran, skyrocketing gas prices, failed promise after failed promise, would be enough to propel yet another blue wave in a midterm in the 2026 midterm election. And importantly, I believe that there will be yet another wave election because people recognize the broken promises and lies coming out of this White House. And most importantly, the negative impact on them, right? People who may have voted for him believed him when he said he was going to work on lowering costs, believed him when he said that he was going to be there for them and support their families or their businesses or their communities. And those are all lies. And we see it very, very clearly. And so it's essential that there's a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives come next January after a win in the midterms, because we need a House of Representatives that will be in the majority to conduct vigorous oversight of just about every federal agency and department at this moment, to ensure accountability and to hold this president and his administration accountable to the people, to our Constitution, and to our country.
Was Donald Trump, in effect, on the ballot tonight in Virginia?
I think it was, I think one could probably say that, absolutely. The question was, were people across the Commonwealth of Virginia going to stand up to his efforts to unfairly kind of tip the scales towards a Republican majority in the House of Representatives? And I think it was very much certainly a referendum on whether we were going to move forward with our redistricting, but I think it was also a referendum on what it is that people saw in his actions. Importantly, the No campaign as well, they put out tens of millions of dollars worth of lies about what this referendum was. Importantly, saying that I supported a no vote, saying Barack Obama supported a no vote. And it was really pretty interesting across Virginia as I was out either, with my gubernatorial hat on, doing everyday work, or out on the campaign trail for the referendum, hearing people just come to me and express complete and utter disgust that it would not just be an aggressive campaign, but a campaign full of lies trying to defeat this referendum. And so the resolute nature of so many of the Virginia voters who determined that this is a moment where they have an opportunity to stand up against the excesses, the abuses, and the lies coming out of the Trump White House, they saw that as an opportunity, and they surely took it.
Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger in a big win tonight in Virginia. Thank you very much for starting off our coverage tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to all the Virginians who stepped out and went to the polls.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you very much. Well, America has turned against Donald Trump. America has turned against Donald Trump again in Virginia tonight. Voters in Virginia turned against Donald Trump tonight. Tucker Carlson has now turned against Donald Trump. A new poll shows that 2/3 of Americans disapprove of Donald Trump. Donald Trump's lies aren't working anymore. Nothing Donald Trump says is working anymore. Donald Trump began his day by saying, I don't want to do that. And then he did that because he is Donald Trump, because he is the only president of the United States in history who thinks his words mean absolutely nothing. Donald Trump once again today proved that his words mean absolutely nothing when he ended his workday doing exactly what he said he didn't want to do this morning. At 8:30 a.m., in a phone call to the morning crew at CNBC, Joe Kernan asked if Donald Trump's deadline for attacking Iran again, beginning tonight, was a real deadline, unlike almost every other Trump deadline.
If it looks like things are progressing, will you not necessarily extend it to a definitive amount of time, but will you let it keep going if there's progress in the talks before taking...
Well, I don't want to do that.
And then, as expected by everyone in the world, including Iran's dictatorial regime, Donald Trump's deadline evaporated. At 4:09 p.m., in a social media post saying that he decided to extend the ceasefire. And now there is no deadline. Of course, this is Donald Trump's war and Donald Trump's so-called negotiating style, so surely he will issue more threats of war crimes and more deadlines that will surely once again be ignored by everyone, including Donald Trump. No one violates Trump-issued deadlines more than Donald Trump. No one ignores those deadlines more than Donald Trump. Imagine what Donald Trump would be saying tonight. Imagine what the news media generally would be saying tonight. If President Obama or President Biden kept issuing deadlines to Iran and then kept caving on those deadlines, imagine what the Fox propaganda channel would be saying tonight. It's not working. Donald Trump's lies are not working. And the Trump-supporting lies of the Fox propaganda channel are not working. And no one personifies the collapse of the Trump-Fox propaganda machine better than former Fox anchorman Tucker Carlson, who once had the highest-rated show on that network and has now turned against Donald Trump because of the Trump war in Iran. Tucker Carlson, who went from publicly supporting Donald Trump on television while privately hating him, to then publicly supporting him again, now says, we are implicated, meaning him and all Trump voters.
We're implicated in this for sure.
Yes.
It's not enough to say, well, I changed my mind, or like, oh, this is bad, I'm out. It's like in very small ways, but in real ways, you and me and millions of people like us are the reason this is happening right now.
Yes.
So I do think it's like a moment to wrestle with our own consciences. We'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be.
And so people who have been against Donald Trump every day of his political career are going to have to get used to this. We're going to have to get used to Tucker Carlson's publicly, suddenly realizing the obvious about Donald Trump, that he never should have been president. First Marjorie Taylor Greene, now Tucker Carlson, and there will be more. And they will include people like Tucker Carlson who have said horribly racist things that they will never retract, that should not be forgotten or forgiven. But what is true about Tucker Carlson's switch of public allegiance, and what is important about Tucker Carlson's switch of public allegiance away from Donald Trump, is that it is very, very bad for Donald Trump. And it represents millions and millions of Trump supporters turning against Donald Trump in polling now. In polls that show the job approval of Donald Trump is now a 67% disapprove. 2/3 of Americans disapprove of Donald Trump as president. And Donald Trump's war in Iran has 67% disapproval. Donald Trump's handling of economic issues, 70% disapprove. And Donald Trump's management of the cost of living, 76% disapprove. And that includes tens of millions of Trump voters who are now turning on Donald Trump. They are finding their issue to turn against Donald Trump, whether it be the cost of living or the Iran war. And so America is turning against Donald Trump tonight. Donald Trump finds new ways every day to sink lower and lower in the polls. Like this morning on CNBC, when he said, because his war in Iran has turned out to be more difficult for the region than he expected, he actually wants to take money from the American people, 76% of whom are struggling with the cost of living, and give that American money to the richest people, not in America, but the richest people in the world who are not Americans. Donald Trump wants to give money to the dictatorship running the United Arab Emirates.
The UAE asking the U.S. for some type of financial lifeline. I don't know if it's a solvency problem. It's more of a liquidity problem. And I know we did, Secretary Bessent did something with Argentina that worked out. Is there some type of swap possible, currency swap with the UAE to help if they need it? And do you think there would be backlash because it's such a or perceived to be such a wealthy country? Is that under consideration?
It is, but it's been a good country. It's been a good ally of ours, and they're really led by incredible people. And yeah, I mean, I'm surprised because they are really rich. So yeah, if I could help them, I would.
Yes, he wants to give them money. He wants to give the United Arab Emirates money, and he's surprised that he has to do that because they're really rich. That's what he's saying. That's what he's telling the world this morning. Islam, a religion Donald Trump mocks in tweets threatening Iran, is the official religion of the United Arab Emirates, which does not believe in separation of church and state, to put it mildly. It is a country of staggering wealth. And Donald Trump now wants American taxpayers to help out that dictatorship because Iran took a few shots at them with drones during Donald Trump's war. Here's a Trump voter today in Orlando, Florida, who is not getting any of the help that Donald Trump wants to give to the richest people in the world in the United Arab Emirates.
What would you grade the economy right now?
Definitely a D. Is there an F up there? Yeah, F. That's it, though.
Why?
It's bad. Like, gas prices are like the highest they've ever been. Rent is the highest. The buying a house is the highest it's ever been. Everything's higher than normal. And then minimum wage hasn't really budged much as prices gone up. So that is a bad economy.
Tucker Carlson was a Trump voter. He was a vocal Trump supporter on the Fox channel while he privately hated Donald Trump, as we learned in a lawsuit against Fox for lying about the Dominion voting systems for Donald Trump, a lawsuit Fox lost to the tune of nearly $1 billion. Text messages emerged in that lawsuit with Tucker Carlson saying, "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately." Tucker Carlson later became a public Trump supporter once again and campaigned with Donald Trump, supporting him for president very happily. And so we have no idea how long Tucker Carlson's current feud with Donald Trump will continue. But the Trump voters who are now turning against Donald Trump won't be as easy for Donald Trump and Republicans to win back as Tucker Carlson might turn out to be. And those voters are on their way tonight to making our next guest the next Speaker of the House of Representatives. The Democratic leader of the House, Hakeem Jeffries, will join us after this break.
It's essential that there's a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives come next January after a win in the midterms, because we need a House of Representatives that will be in the majority to conduct vigorous oversight of just about every federal agency and department at this moment, to ensure accountability and to hold this president and his administration accountable to the people, to our Constitution, and to our country.
That was Virginia's governor moments ago here in her first interview after Virginia voters voted tonight to redistrict congressional seats in Virginia in such a way that Democrats could pick up as many as 4 Democratic seats in the state of Virginia for the House of Representatives. President Obama has posted his congratulations to Virginia tonight, saying, "Congratulations, Virginia. Republicans are trying to tilt the midterm elections in their favor, but they haven't done it yet. Thanks for showing up, showing us what it looks like to stand up for our democracy and fight back." This morning on CNBC, Donald Trump attacked our next guest with Donald Trump's trademark, ugly, casual racism and his rank ignorance of the Constitution and what treason means. Here is the disgusting stupidity and hatred spewed by Donald Trump this morning.
So we've done a great job, and I don't want to be rushed by people that are really treasonous as far as I'm concerned. And it's just, I watch this low IQ guy, Hakeem Jeffries. He's a totally low IQ person, and he's always ranting and raving, "Oh, this war is so terrible."
And joining us now is House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. Mr. Leader, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to what Donald Trump said about you this morning.
Well, it's an extraordinary insult, but he continues to repeat it. And what's so ironic is that Donald Trump is clearly the dumbest person ever to sit at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But most importantly, Lawrence, this guy and Republicans have completely and totally failed America. They failed on the economy, failed on health care, failed on immigration enforcement, and now they've gotten us into a reckless and costly war of choice where more than a dozen Americans, brave heroes, have already lost their lives. Over 400 are seriously injured, and we're wasting billions of dollars dropping bombs in the Middle East, and these guys won't spend a dime to actually make life more affordable for the American people.
What do you think the vote in Virginia means tonight to the possibility of you becoming the next Speaker of the House?
Well, it's a big victory for the people of Virginia, a big victory for America, and a big victory for democracy. And let me first just thank Governor Abigail Spanberger, Speaker Don Scott, the members of the Virginia General Assembly, the congressional delegation, certainly President Barack Obama. It was an all-hands-on-deck effort, and I'm so thankful for what has transpired. The Republicans, ordered by Donald Trump all across the country, were trying to gerrymander the national congressional map as part of their scheme to rig the midterm elections. And they thought that Democrats were going to step back. We made clear from the very beginning that we were going to fight back. We did it in Texas. We did it in California. We've done it in Utah. We pushed them back in Ohio. We stopped them in New Hampshire, stopped them in Nebraska, stopped them in Kansas, stopped them in Indiana. Big win today in Virginia. And we're going to keep the pressure on the extremists because we're committed to ensuring that there's a free and fair election in November.
Did you agree with the governor? Abigail Spanberger has just come from the House of Representatives, of course, as you know, to the governorship. And she was describing to us the importance, in her view, of the Democrats regaining control of the House during this Trump presidency. What is your view of what changes for Donald Trump when the Democrats take over the House next year, if they do?
Well, we're going to focus on driving down the high cost of living. We understand that life has become far too expensive in the United States of America. Donald Trump promised to lower costs on day one. Costs haven't gone down. They've gone up. And far too many people in this country, working class folks, middle class folks, everyday Americans, they're struggling to live paycheck to paycheck, can't thrive, and can barely survive. And this reckless war of choice is making life even more expensive. Gas prices through the roof, and food prices are heading in the wrong direction as well. We will need to fix our broken healthcare system that Republicans are detonating in real time and repair the damage that has been done, and bring to the American people the type of system that actually allows all Americans to afford to see a doctor when they need one. And we also have to combat this corruption and deal with the fact that the Trump cartel, this administration, clearly is the most corrupt in American history. And there's going to be accountability as it relates to what the extremists are doing to the American people, and the fact that far too many of them are in government service right now to enrich themselves, their family members, and their donors, as opposed to making life better for the American people.
The final point you made about the corruption that is just reeking from Trump world in Washington, that issue, most observers believe, was a crucial issue in the elections we just saw in Turkey, where the new government, in Hungary, where the new government has promised an investigation of everything that has preceded it. Is that something that you would be promising the American people, that the Trump corruption in Washington and around the country will be an investigative priority for the House of Representatives?
Well, listen, it's a priority right now. We're already running many of these extremists out of town. Pam Bondi is gone. Kristi Noem is gone. We're going to make sure that Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel are on their way out the door as well. These are people who should have never been confirmed by Senate Republicans. Shame on them for putting these unqualified individuals into these positions of great significance and sensitivity. But certainly, Lawrence, as we cross over into the majority, if the American people were to entrust us with that great responsibility, we're going to make sure we're pushing an agenda that lowers the cost of living, the affordability side of things, while at the same period of time, we know that we have to bring accountability. It was James Madison who said that Congress at its best should be a rival to the executive branch. And so we take that to mean a check and balance on an out-of-control Trump administration.
Donald Trump has said publicly that he's afraid that you will impeach him if Democrats get control of the House of Representatives. Should he be afraid of impeachment?
Well, we haven't ruled anything in and we haven't ruled anything out. But Donald Trump should start conducting himself like a president who complies with the law, as opposed to someone who continues to abuse power and unleashes, for instance, the Department of Justice to target people who he perceived to be his political adversaries. And so we're going to have to look at all of these things. But we also understand, and we've been winning elections all across the country since January of 2025 through the most recent elections that we've seen take place this month all across the land. And the common theme is that the American people want us as Democrats to solve the problems that Donald Trump has ignored. And so that will remain a top priority. America is clearly far too expensive, and we've got to do something about it so we can build a country of the people, by the people, and for the people, as opposed to what the Trump administration, the Trump cartel has done, which is really run a government of the billionaires, by the billionaires, and for the billionaires.
If Donald Trump's war is still ongoing in Iran, and Donald Trump has said today he doesn't think it's been going on for very long at all, so going on into next year doesn't seem like something that he would think was a very long war. If that war is still going on in January of next year, would you bring a war powers vote in the House to stop that war?
Yes, we will continue to advance war powers resolutions. And of course, Lawrence, we've now been able to bring them twice. And because war powers resolutions are privileged, we do have the opportunity, even in the minority, to force votes so that members of the House can declare up or down whether they support Donald Trump's reckless and costly war of choice, or whether they oppose it. And House Democrats are going to continue to strongly oppose it. And you can expect that in the near future, you will see an additional war powers resolution brought to the floor. And all we need are 2 additional Republicans to join us, and we can do what we need to do in the House to end this reckless war of choice, and then put the pressure on the Senate to do the same.
Democratic Leader of the House, Hakeem Jeffries, thank you very much for joining our coverage tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. And when we come back, Virginia Congressman James Walkinshaw will join us in our continuing coverage of the big win for democracy in Virginia tonight and other issues. Here is Donald Trump's choice to be the next chair of the Federal Reserve in his confirmation hearing today.
Are you refusing to tell us if you have investments, for example, in vehicles set up to advance Jeffrey Epstein? Is that what you're telling us? You just won't tell us?
Senator, what I'm telling you is that those assets that you represent at Juggernaut will be sold if I'm confirmed.
Joining us now is Democratic Congressman James Walkinshaw of Virginia. He's a member of the House Oversight Committee and Homeland Security Committee. And Congressman, is this the kind of thing that Virginia voters had in mind tonight? We just heard Leader Jeffries talk about what he calls the Trump cartel, which is this stink of corruption around Trump World in Washington, D.C.
I think absolutely the Trump cartel, the Mar-a-Lago mafia, whatever term you want to use for them, Virginians are asking themselves, why did I lose my federal job? Why was my small business shut down by the Trump administration? Why do I no longer have health care coverage? While these guys are raking it in and got their hands in every cookie jar that they can find and making themselves wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. And I spent a lot of time working on the Epstein files issue. And I think that has touched a nerve with the American people because it feels like there's a different set of rules for the wealthy and the well-connected, especially if you're wealthy and well-connected to Donald Trump. I think Virginia voters were reacting to all of that and more today.
The Democrats on the Oversight Committee have, to my mind, from where I'm sitting, done a remarkable job of pushing forward on an investigation that is technically controlled by the Republican chairman and by the Republican majority on that committee, but you've managed to push through a very significant amount of resistance there. If the Democrats have control of that committee and they don't have to push past Republican resistance in order to get subpoenas issued and things like that, how does that change the investigation of the Epstein files and all of the possible involvements in the Trump administration?
Well, you're absolutely right, Lawrence. We have a committee filled with fighters on the Democratic side on the Oversight Committee who have been banging away at this for a long time and made a lot of progress. But if we control the committee and if Robert Garcia holds that gavel, we will be able to 10x or 100x the speed of this investigation. We'll be able to get real answers to questions around Jeffrey Epstein's finances, right? And subpoenas of all of the banks and financial institutions that he was involved in. We will get not just Pam Bondi, but other figures in the Justice Department involved in evading the law and releasing the files to sit down and answer questions under oath, under subpoena. All of those things will happen.
I'm fascinated by this vote in Virginia because really I've never seen anything like it because no one has seen anything like it. Really in our history, a president tries a gerrymander conspiracy with the state of Texas. That's responded to by governors in California and Virginia by going to their voters and getting their voters to join them in making the decision to counter what the Republican president's trying to do. This sounds like an extremely complicated thing to explain to voters as a reason to come out and vote in something that they weren't scheduled to do as voters. It's hard enough, it seems to me, getting voters motivated in a normal circumstance. It seems really remarkable to me that this motivation was there in Virginia. What does it tell you about the motivation you would expect to see in November in voters?
Well, you're absolutely right. And tonight's result wasn't just about redrawing the lines on a map. It was about Virginia voters drawing a line in the sand and saying enough is enough. This is an administration that has attacked Virginia and Virginia jobs without end, slashing tens of thousands of federal workers, shutting down small businesses, attacking us time and time again. And Virginia voters said, enough. We're not going to let you rig the midterm elections on top of all the damage you've already done in our Commonwealth. And I think that energy exists not just in Virginia, but across the country. Folks are fed up. They're fed up with the corruption and fed up with the fact that while Trump is building golden ballrooms and making himself wealthier, they're struggling to put food on the table to feed their families and afford their health insurance premiums. I think we'll see similar energy around the country in November, but Virginia is going to lead the way.
Congressman James Walkinshaw, thank you very much for joining our coverage tonight.
Thanks, Lawrence.
And today, Donald Trump said he is sad. That's the word he used. Sad about having to pay back the illegal tariffs that he imposed on Americans because only Americans paid those tariffs. He's very sad that he now has to pay back that money. One of the people he owes that money to is going to join us next. This morning on CNBC, Donald Trump said he hates having to pay back the tariff money that he illegally took from Americans.
If they had common sense, we would not be paying back almost $200 billion in tariffs so stupidly. In many cases, the enemy is getting this money. The people that have hated the United States, we're giving them checks for billions of dollars. It's so sad to see.
And there's Donald Trump saying it's so sad that the Supreme Court did not let him get away with illegally imposing tariffs on Americans and American companies importing goods from other countries. Donald Trump lied about his tariffs once again today when he said the enemy is getting this money, this refund money. That's a pure Trumpian lie, as every faithful viewer of this program already knows. Tariffs are only paid by Americans, Trump tariffs, only paid by Americans and American companies here in the United States, only when the goods arrive in the United States. No foreign country has ever paid a tariff imposed by another foreign country. Neil Katyal joined us on this program last night on the day when the Trump administration was forced by federal judge Richard Eaton to begin the process of refunding the Trump tariffs.
It is the largest refund action in the history of this country. And it can't come a moment too soon because, Lawrence, it's not China. It's people like my clients, small businesses who had to let people go and, they couldn't buy equipment. They had to forego it. Many of them went bankrupt because of these tariffs. And we won and we're getting the refunds back. But these folks can't get their lives back. There's no ability for small businesses that went out of business to now come back in.
Joining us now is one of Neil Katyal's clients in the Trump tariff case, Rick Woldenberg, CEO of Learning Resources, which makes award-winning educational toys. Rick, thanks for joining us again tonight. Donald Trump is very sad that he has to pay you back the money that he illegally took from you. How are you feeling about it?
Honey, I'm not feeling that sad. We filed the claims for over $10 million. It's our money, and we're looking forward to getting it back with interest.
And how did the process go? Judge Eaton ordered them to start it yesterday. There's been some reports of the new system, which is understandable, just like Obamacare's original healthcare portal. The portal was a little shaky. Is it working now?
I believe it is. Given the magnitude of the challenge that they faced, there were 53 million entries that paid IEEPA tariffs. Of course, everyone was standing right next to the door, ready to press the button as soon as they could, because this was well in excess of $100 billion of refunds that people were seeking. So not surprising that the system crashed briefly, but I think they did a really good job. They certainly were very conscientious in their effort to make this possible. And all in all, I think it was a success so far.
What does it feel like to you? You're there in business, and business is always a struggle at any level. Suddenly you get hit with these tariffs. You know the Constitution says the president can't do that, and you decide to go to court. And you end up going all the way to the Supreme Court with Neil Katyal. You win. You reaffirm the Constitution's power here. And now it also involves a refund for your business. How does all of that feel? How does making history feel?
Oh, that's the thing that's overwhelming, is like somehow we are part of history now. To me, this is a demonstration of the American system. This is how it's supposed to work. In a rule of law system, you're allowed to raise your hand as a citizen and say, I think the law is not being applied correctly. Our goal was to get the Supreme Court as fast as we possibly could. And in this case, we were right. And as you point out, it's we, the importers, who've been paying the tariffs. It's we who borrow the money from banks to pay the tariffs. And it's we who get the money back. We're excited about that. And I'm glad to stand on the right side of history on this one.
Rick Woldenberg, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you very much for bringing the case to support the Constitution against Donald Trump. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Rick Woldenberg, who made history by beating Donald Trump in the United States Supreme Court, gets tonight's last word.